Good morning, everybody, and welcome to International Women's Day. And how amazing it is to have so many people here. We have over 120 people, predominantly women, from at least 10 countries around the world joining us this morning. So it is a phenomenal event, and it will be a phenomenal morning. So on behalf of Wayfinder Women, it's my absolute joy, honour and privilege to welcome you all to this online event and to International Women's Day 2021. And this is a truly international morning. I'm lucky enough to be one of the trustees of Wayfinder Women. My name is Katie Day. Wayfinder is a truly amazing charity. The charity is supported by an incredible group of volunteers and the board of trustees who are all wonderful women in their own right. And I feel truly blessed to be part of such an awesome family of women. And I use the word family particularly because it is a family. And this last year, which has been unbelievably challenging for so many people around the world, to be part of the Wayfinder family of women has been one of the things that has kept me going. We are a group of incredible women and we support each other. We share the tears, we share the laughter, and we celebrate each other. And our mission is to celebrate all women everywhere. So it's amazing to be here and to be running this event on behalf of the charity. In addition to Wayfinder, I'm also one of the directors of RDP International, which is a global consultancy training and leadership company. I've been working in the arena of women in business and leadership and women's personal development for over 3 decades now. And at the moment, I have a particular interest and specialism in the menopause and midlife, having worked with and supported thousands of women and men over recent years. And at RDPI, we are delighted to be supporting this event this morning. So to start off, I'm going to introduce to you the founder of Wayfinder Women Trust, Laura Murphy. Laura Murphy was recognised by the former Prime Minister Theresa May for her innovative work supporting women. As a result, she was asked to be an advisory member of the Sussex Police Gender Equality Advisory Group and Strategic Advisory Group. She's now a member of the Crown Prosecution Service scrutiny panels for violence against women and young girls and hate crime. She was a finalist for 3 East Sussex Women in Business Awards in 2019, Mentor of the Year, Contribution to the Community, and Innovation Awards. Laura is also the founder and director of MTC2 Limited, which is an award-winning company providing management consultancy, training, and executive coaching. Facing many challenges, Laura gained her MBA in 2000, her teaching qualification shortly after, closely followed by her coaching qualifications. She has written a number of publications and is an author and a business columnist. And to big her up, because she won't do it herself, she is the heartbeat of Wayfinder Women. And without her vision and without her inspiration and without her support, myself and the other trustees and all the volunteers would not be who we are and where we are today. So Laura, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Katie. Gosh, I'm quite overwhelmed with all of that. Thank you. So about 8 years ago, there was a challenge facing me about how do I support the women that have got so little self-confidence that they wouldn't engage in any workshops to build their skills. So I took up that challenge by running a pro bono support group, the Wayfinder Club. That then became a community association, able to apply for grants to run free workshops. And within 3 months, we'd had our first national lottery grant. And we've had grants from various organisations ever since that. And in 2019, we became a fully fledged charity. So as Katie said, we run entirely by volunteers. And what we do is build a mutual support community. It's run by women, for women. And by doing so, we also have an awful lot of fun. Because we get the grants and by fundraising, all our workshops are free, our coaching's free, and we have a drop-in advice and support centre that's based in Eastbourne in East Sussex. Our aim is to help women build the confidence and the skills they need so that they can transform their lives. And in the last year alone, we've supported over 365 women. Our volunteers have given over 4,000 hours. And of those who are actively seeking employment, over 80% have found work. Now, the pandemic and the lockdown gave us perhaps our biggest challenge. Women's mental health was suffering greatly, and we responded by asking for their stories. We wanted them to know their voices were important and to feel connected with their communities. And over 100 stories later, we're now fundraising to publish them so that every contributor can have a copy for posterity, and future historians will also hear their voices. Of course, with every challenge, there's opportunities, and taking our workshops online has unlocked a worldwide audience for us. We have women dialing in from Australia, Ireland, and America. And many of our workshops were reconfigured to respond to women's requests for mental health support. And now we're here at International Women's Day, hearing from the global community that truly reflects our motto, inspiring women, inspiring other women. So please, everybody, enjoy today. And after this, continue to support us and our work. Thank you, Katie, for organising such a wonderful event.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's been an absolute joy, and I've had so much fun putting this morning together, and have been overwhelmed by how popular it's been, which is fantastic. Now, there are ups and downsides to everything in life. The upside to running an online event is I don't have to point out where the nearest toilets and the fire exits are. The downside to running an online event is that we are relying on technology. So we're all keeping our fingers crossed that it all works smoothly, and smoothly it has been working so far. So as participants, you won't be able to interact verbally, but please do put questions into your chat box, which will be monitored regularly. So it is now my absolute joy and pleasure to introduce Baroness Udine, who's going to give a few opening remarks to officially launch this event this morning. The Right Honourable Baroness Udine is an advocate for women's economic, social justice and political equality. In 1998, she took her seat in the House of Lords as the first Bangladeshi and Muslim, appointed in recognition for her long-standing contribution to community development. A former advisor to the British Prime Minister on community cohesion and improving women's participation in politics and public life, she has served on the Select Committee of European Affairs and chaired several government task forces. As a mother of a son who lives with autism and learning disability, Baroness Udine is a devoted champion of disability rights, and for 7 years was a board member of Autism Speak. She is an officer and member of the all-party parliamentary group on the Commonwealth, Africa, International Students, Islamic and Ethical Finance, and chairs the National Commission of Muslim Women. Baroness Udine, bless you for taking the time out of your ridiculously busy schedule that makes me go weak at the knees just thinking about it. And over to you.
Thank you, Katie. Good morning. It's such a privilege to take part. Thank you so much, Laura Murphy, for your vision and your dedication to this incredible work. And this morning, I am absolutely delighted to be sharing this session, this platform with Rania Abdullah, Rana Ossekar, Natasha D'Souza, and Dr. Anita Davis-Defoe. Welcome to this wonderful gathering, and it's such a privilege again. My name is Manzila Paula Uddin, and I've been a member of the House of Lords for the past this is my 23rd year. I'm essentially an activist, a community activist. I joined the Labour Party when I was 16, and I have remained engaged on the street level politics, I suppose, in that sense, but in essence, really enabling and empowering women to realize their full potential, which is, I think, today is all about, is the fact that we are having to remember to celebrate this one day as an example for what's happening to us, all of us. But it's very important to showcase what is happening to us and the progress that so many of us here have been part of, pushing the changes that we have been able to make. I mean, I take changes very personally and very specifically. When I was 16, I went to a march which was happening against the fascists in my area, which is called Brick Lane in London. And I saw a really avid, very strong woman called Belle Harris, and she always used to sell these incredible, powerful messages by women and for women. And she was an activist and she was a feminist. And I bought something which says, this was at the early age of 16 when I very foolishly got married. And then I says, if I could find a babysitter, I would change the world. And I have kept that postcard. In fact, I should have got it out to show you as a mark of the person that I've always wanted to be, which is that it wasn't about if I had the children and I could find the babysitter, but that I wanted to change the world. And, I didn't know at that time that I would end up having 5 children. I have 5 grandchildren. I'm very blessed. But the innate drive, because I just come from Bangladesh at the age of 13, sort of being relieved by my family to be here joining my father after the war of liberation. And this drive to see injustice driven out of our communities, our families, was as a really pressing factor. So my work is very simple. I'm not a chair of this, chair of that, and I'm not on many boards, and it's not very possible for many of us from minority communities to achieve board position in this country. Still, women are at the back foot, but so are minority women. So I have spent large amount of my lifetime devoted to trying to make a difference to the one woman that comes across me. I think that's one woman at a time, because I feel that that's really important, that for women's well-being, which is what Katie and Laura and Roger have been trying to pursue, is really critical. So in Parliament, I focus very, very much on details around women's development, women's mental well-being, always remembering that, I have 4 sons and 4 grandsons, and still married to the same man for my sins. But, so it's really important that we engage, we remain engaged, we remain united across political divides, and I do work very much across different political parties. And in House of Lords is such a blessing that we're able to do that. We are able to collaborate. So I just want to really finish because there are so many incredible women taking part. I just wanted to introduce myself to you and maybe take conversations, not only here, but outside this platform elsewhere. My main focus has been very recently, as Roger said, I've been trying to establish an organization called National Commission on Muslim Women. And this follows many other initiatives that I've been able to have the privilege of and honor of being able to be part of. What I wanted to say is that Change the Script is the campaign of this organization, and we want to celebrate women's presence and women's legacy in this country, particularly minority women. But that's not my main focus. My main focus is women per se and women's well-being. And I'm very pleased to say that domestic violence, which has been a problem of our millennia, is something that our government is finally addressing. And today and on Wednesday is almost the last hurdle of getting the legislation through, and actually we'll be working on it until 12 o'clock tonight. And that is not an unusual experience, although it is lately in Parliament. Those of you who work closely with Parliament and our parliamentarians will know that, our work never stops as women in our homes, outside, within our communities, with our family, but then we have responsibilities wherever we are. And, my final point will be that it is remarkable, this new innovation of online working and being able to reach out. It's really opened up a new world of network of support. Although I so miss this physical hugging and touching, which is how me, Katie, and we all are perhaps. And I miss that so much because Parliament is where I've driven women's organization and women and children who never would dream of coming to Parliament. My effort has been for the last 23 years to connect communities to Parliament. And I miss this work. And I hope and pray that, we will overcome all of this together. And I think that's the message really for all of us. And I know that this would be shared by each and every one of you. It's only our collective action that will, result any changes. And we've seen when we are disunited, when we are disempowered from each other, then people can drive a wedge and mayhem can occur. And all the progress we have made suddenly goes out of the window. George Floyd's death highlights that. But, one woman dies every week from partner violence. And so, this is endless. So we need to continue. All of the women that are participating and all of our supporters, brothers in arms that are here and present, I want to thank every one of you for taking part, because without all of you, no changes will occur. So just my very final point is I'm on social media at Baroness Uddin, Twitter, which I'm not very great on, but Facebook and LinkedIn, and I look forward to seeing you and hearing you and being with you. Thank you so much for allowing me this morning to say a few words. And thank you, Laura. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Roger, for the outstanding work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us this morning and your words. And after the 21st of June, when I can get on a train and come up to London and meet you for a coffee, I will give you the biggest hug ever. So I'm just telling you to be prepared. I will not let go for quite a few minutes. And it's interesting when we look back, I often say to the women that I'm working with, imagine you're walking up a mountain, just stop focusing on how far you still have to go, but take the time to stop, turn around and look at how far you've already come.
And pick someone up as you go.
And pick someone up. And I know as a woman living today in the 21st century, it is my responsibility to be the best version of the person I can be every day, to honor all the women who have come before me. And also it's my responsibility to create a clearer path for all the women coming up behind me.
Yes.
And if we all do that, we have the power to change the world. So thank you so much. So now it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our first speaker of the morning. So the first half this morning, we are going to Egypt, Turkey, India, and the Caribbean. So our very first speaker is Rania Abdallah, who's joining us from Cairo in Egypt. Rania is the founder and managing director of Aspire HR Consultants, IRC Egypt and IRC UAE. She also sits on the executive board of IRC Global Executive Search Partners, the world's largest executive search alliance, represented in more than 90 cities across 6 continents. She's also the global leader of Consumer and Retail Practice Group. Rania has been granted several awards, including being awarded as one of the top 50 most influential women in Egypt. And she was the overall winner of the Emirates Business Women Awards. Rania, good morning, welcome, and over to you.
Good morning, Katie. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Katie, for the lovely introduction. It's very exciting for me to celebrate International Women's Day with all of you, inspiring women from all around the world. And I'm really very excited about it. Well, I was an 8-year-old kid in the car with my father alone, going to the eye doctor to look at my sight. But unfortunately, we never reached there because my father had a heart attack and he passed away on the spot. Imagine how this feels. In psychology, they always say missing the father figure affects you in 2 ways, in a lot of ways, but 2 ways mainly: self-image and security. So my mom, of course, she played a very, very big role in my life. Being the youngest of 4 children, she always pushed me. She believed that the sky is the limit, and she made me believe that from a very young age, thanks to her. She started sharing a lot of inspiring stories about women all over the world. And I mean, whenever there is a TV show, she brings me to see that about, stories that are very inspiring. And this has really helped me. I grew up wanted to be 2 things: financially independent and secure. So by secure, I always had the choice to move, to always go to the safe place. So I'm always wanted to play it safe. So my first decision was in the university. I had to choose my major. I love psychology, but I thought economics would bring me better career. So I chose economics. And during my last year at the university, I had actually scholarship from the American Chamber of Commerce. So they gave me the opportunity to have an internship there. I went there for an internship and it was really interesting, but I wasn't sure this is what I wanted to do. When I actually had on my graduation day, I found a phone call from the American Chamber asking me to work with them. And again, I found out there is an opportunity in my hand, not sure about is this my passion or not, but I joined because I wanted to play it safe. After that, I actually I started working in the American Chamber. I was a little bit lost. I wasn't sure about really what am I supposed to do and what is my passion. I was coordinating different committees. One of them was an HR committee. And at this point of time, Egypt didn't know much about HR. It was more of personnel and attendance and taking absences and tracking sheets and things like that. But I was lucky enough to have this opportunity of looking at best practices of human resources through this committee. Not only in the country, but from around the world. And I got inspired. And I thought, okay, this is my place. This is my passion. I want to join HR. I started looking for different opportunities for the best school in a big corporate company that will teach me human resources. And I was lucky enough to join a very big corporate company. I started working there. I learned a lot of HR during my journey. I also wanted to make sure that theoretically I'm doing the right thing. I had my diploma in human resources management and also my master's from Kingston University in the UK. And I climbed the corporate ladder. I stayed there for 11 years. Throughout the 11 years, I was ticking the right boxes that I thought they're actually my right boxes for me. So the professional career and the financial security. However, I always felt there is something missing and I didn't know what it is. I felt I'm not being myself a little bit. I felt also there are lots of rules and regulations that I struggled with it in terms of my own freedom. However, also I chose to play it safe. So I also chose that I will continue in my career with the safe financial security and the career. Until an incident happened, some sort of illness to one of my immediate family. And at this point of time, my priorities were set very clear. It was very obvious for me that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to spend quality time with my family member. And I resigned. After a few months, after actually like 6 months, I found out that things have settled down and I wanted to go to work and to my life again, my normal life. And at this point of time, something has changed. Something made me not go through the safe place. Although I got very good corporate opportunities with financial securities, and everyone was actually telling me this is the right thing to do, but something has changed in me. And I've decided not to play it safe. I decided to go after my passion. And my passion was to be an entrepreneur. I actually founded Aspire HR Consultants. It's an HR consultancy and senior management recruitment. And it's now one of the leading companies in the Middle East. I can't say it was all perfect because there were lots of hiccups and lots of challenges. There was the startup itself was quite challenging. We had the revolution. It was actually a big hiccup, and the inflation and the political unrest and the economic unrest. We had the COVID lately, so lots of challenges. But every time, it was very easy for me when I look at that to see that, okay, cutting budgets would be really the safest thing, but I always challenged myself. I always looked at ways to grow during these crises. And I think, and I believe it really paid off. So if I were to give you 3 tips, I would say the following. First of all, being kind is not weak. So if there is a choice for you at any point of time, choosing being kind to yourself and to others is really amazing. And it's the right choice. The second one is practice building grit, which is mainly passion and perseverance against long-term goals. And this comes with learning and with a growth mindset. And last but not least, don't always play it safe. So look at the best ideas, look at the strongest intuition that you have, test them, and work hard towards achieving them, and choose to challenge. Thank you so much.
Rania, thank you so much. That was truly inspirational and a wonderful way to kick off our speakers for this morning. And a few of the things that kind of leapt out for me was your mother. And I recognize having a mother who's a very strong role model. I spent most of my childhood without my father for different reasons, but having that strong female role model is incredibly powerful, and about playing it safe. And I remember where I was employed and I wanted to start my own business, and I was all too scary. Yeah. And I remember my father saying to me, "What's the worst that can happen, kid? If it all goes wrong, you come back and you move in with me." And I have to say, being a 40-year-old woman, the prospect of moving back to live with my father was sufficient motivation to make my business as successful as it could be, as quickly as it could be. So it was surprising what can motivate us sometimes, but that was my motivation. I mean, I loved him, but I didn't want to live with him. So that was, and what I like, I mean, certainly for this last year, the hashtag has been #BeKind.
Yeah,
I think your first tip is incredibly important, and it has to start with being kind to ourselves, doesn't it?
Absolutely,
that is so important, being kind to ourselves. And I love practice building grit. I might adopt that and pretend I came up with it because it's brilliant, and I absolutely love that. And absolutely, there is something really wonderful about feeling nervous, apprehensive, and a little bit scared, because it's the way we know that we are ready to move up to that next stage and just take ourselves out of our comfort zone. So thank you so much, Rania. We will be coming back to you for the Q&A at the end of this first half session, but thank you so much for your words of wisdom.
Thank you so much.
So it's my pleasure now to introduce our second speaker, who's joining us from one of my favourite cities in the whole wide world, which is Istanbul, and I can't wait to go back when we're allowed back on planes again. So I'd like to introduce Rana Otika. Rana is a change management lead, cultural change coach, diversity, equity and inclusion project designer, startup mentor, investor, board member and keynote speaker. And she's also an all-round fabulous woman, as well as doing all of these things. Rana believes in the power of women, and she mentors many via the Sharik Blair Foundation for Women, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the Turkish Women International Network and Professional Women Network. She worked for Girls 20 in the 2016 G20 Summit to prepare a report about the economical, cultural and educational barriers in Turkey for girls between the ages of 16 to 22. She established the mentoring system of Turkish Women International Network, a Turkish social venture established to support underprivileged young women, Professional Women Network Istanbul, and Aya Women Investment Platform. Rana, good morning and welcome, and we are so looking forward to hearing your words of wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie. It's a pleasure to be here. You know, I'm really happy, and I'm honored to be here with you on this very meaningful day. And thanks, Rania, for the amazing speech. And I know that COVID brought sadness and fear to the world and a new understanding of vulnerability for all of us. But still, I do believe there is a good in every evil. And the fact that I can reach out to you right now from the comfort of my home is the great evidence of that, to my understanding. And I'm really grateful to the technological improvement that allows me to be part of this event together with these wonderful women from all around the world. Well, the theme this year is choose to challenge. So what I did is to ask myself what I did choose to challenge in my life. And believe me, I came out so many rules, norms, bias that I had difficulty in choosing one. So I've decided to choose the most important challenge, the most important experience of my life that changed it totally. So I chose to challenge the idea, the very bias that I have to live in an either or world. I have always refused the idea to be either stay at home and be a good mom, or work long hours and to be a successful businesswoman. I refuse to be either a nice, polite person and valued by the society, or be assertive and speak up for myself and for the ones who cannot speak for themselves. I refuse to choose between my analytical, logical side and the compassionate and loving Rana. So, well, I had a waking call. You know, I was not always like that. I was not always a rebel. I was not always opposed to choosing. But while I was working for Procter & Gamble Turkey as accounting manager, I was desperately wanted to be successful. I look around and I noticed that most of the women executives were working hard. They were doing overtimes. And I saw them as role model, and I started working so hard, so long hours, that I have not seen my daughter's first step. I have not heard her first word. And I will be very frank, but I know nothing about her first 2 years. And I was not aware what I was missing. So thank God she was more intelligent than me, even at 2. And she found out a way to tell me that something is wrong. The first thing she did is to stop smiling. Can you imagine a baby, a girl, 2 years old, and never smiling at all? And then she got sick. So when we go to the hospital, the doctors told me that there is nothing wrong physically. So that was just her cry for help, her way of telling me that she needed her mom. And so I've started to question what I was doing. And after a period, of what I can call enlightenment, I chose to challenge the society's, the business world rule, and my family's rule that forces me to choose between my social roles. This was the first, but not the last time. Many times followed that. My whole life, I opposed to choose. I'm happy with my social roles. I'm a woman. I'm a daughter. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a businesswoman. I'm a teacher. So I don't need to choose between them. What I need to do is to manage them. And to manage that, I have few hints, and I'm going to share it with you. So first thing that is really important to me is to be aware that life is a balance of giving and receiving. If you don't believe, just look at your body right now. You inhale and you exhale. You cannot choose between them. You need both. You need that balance which is specific to yourself. We all know that most famous bit of ancient advice inscribed on the temple of Apollo at Delphi, know thyself. So I would suggest you to give time to understand your values, your needs, your passion, be aware of your longings. And if you give yourself that time to explore your inner strengths, you will notice that the process will be easier. And don't miss that balance too. You should be aware of what you are willing to give and what you really want in return. So the balance is subjective to all of us. My second tip is asking the right question. We are living in a quantum era, and we know that Schrödinger's cat is both alive and dead at the same time. So I can't be both, why shall I choose? So I definitely refuse that. And I believe that the hint is asking the right question. As Ursula Le Guin said, there are no right answers to wrong question, and I definitely believe in that. So the question is not which one should I choose, but the right question is how can I be both of them? So open your mind. So just, try to find more innovative ways. Try to find yourself, working with new rules. So then maybe we can find the answer of how I can spend time for my kid and to continue working and be successful in both of my roles.
Okay.
And lately, the last one of my tip is that we need to understand the people around us. People may have different beliefs, different perspectives, different value systems. And we should make certain that we do know the culture of the society, of our community. We do need to understand where they are in Maslow's needs of hierarchy. What are their priorities, the core values? And then, once we understood, then we can go and decide how to build that bridge accordingly. There will always be people around us who are afraid of the upcoming change, who are happy with the status quo. But if we can write the story in such a way that touches many people, man or woman, young or old, then we can also have supporters. In my opinion, one of the most important skills one has to have today is storytelling. We have to tell them what is in it for them. Show them the benefit, because there's always at least one. We just need to look closer with an open mind, devoid of prejudices. So then, what we need to do is rewrite the story with the new perspective and remember what's not important. What is important is not what we say, but how we say it. So you may be surprised with results. There are more to say, but I know that many amazing speakers are waiting for their turn, so I will stop here. But before I go, I want to leave you with a few lines of my favorite poem. I love Pablo Neruda, and I love Die Slowly. So, just a few lines. He who slowly destroys his own self-esteem, who does not allow himself to be helped, who spends day on end complaining about his own bad luck, about the rain that never stops, dies slowly. Mm-hmm. He who becomes the slave of habit, who follows the same routes every day, who never changes pace, who does not risk and change the color of his clothes, who does not speak and does not experience, dies slowly. He or she who does not turn things topsy-turvy, who is unhappy at work, who does not risk certainty for uncertainty to thus follow a dream, those who do not forego sound advice, at least once in their lives, die slowly. Let's live to the fullest. I'm not ready to die. Thank you.
Thank you, Rana. That was amazing, as I knew it would be, and incredibly inspirational. Thank you. And what a way to end your talk, and bless you for your words of wisdom. I really get what you mean about that balance and about giving and receiving. And your daughter, I mean, what an amazing story. I often say to people, listen to your body when it's whispering, don't wait until it starts shouting. But we are all so busy, we forget to give ourselves time to listen to the whispers. But if we listen to the whispers in life, nothing will start shouting at us. But it's having that stillness and giving ourselves that gift to listen to the whispers, which is incredibly important in life. And really knowing your passion, that is so important to know your passion. If we follow our heart, everything else will follow. And about being that change. I mean, what springs to mind are the words from Gandhi: be the change you want to see in the world. So if you want things to look differently around us, we actually have to embody that difference within us, and live it with every fibre of our being, and be that difference in the world, which is incredible. And asking the right questions. Yeah, absolutely. How many of us go through life and ask the wrong ones? I mean, it's so important to ask the right questions of ourselves, actually, and knowing what our values are, what makes us women in the world, what legacy do we want to leave behind us and in our wake, and how are we going to do that? So thank you so much. It was truly inspirational. Thank you. And we will see you again for the Q&A in a little while. Thank you, Rana. We are now traveling to India, and I would like to introduce Natasha D'Souza. Now, Natasha describes herself as a fun-loving, compassionate and young hospitality professional with a keen penchant for delicious food, gourmet beers and large hotels, which is probably one of the best descriptions I've ever heard about anybody. However, I would like to describe Natasha as possibly one of the most impressive young women I have ever met. And she won't say this about herself, so I'm saying it for her. So to introduce her professional journey, at the age of just 21, she was the youngest restaurant manager in India, where she worked for the prestigious Taj Group of hotels. Her next milestone was to move to the planning of prestigious events and large-scale conferences for some major Indian companies. Currently, she is in charge of organising weddings within the Accor Group of hotels. Now, I just want to pause here and say, when I say organising weddings, I'm not talking about hiring the local village hall or inviting a few friends and hiring a karaoke machine and a part-time DJ. We are talking Indian weddings. These are on a scale unlike anything else. The only thing I can think will probably mirror them in their complexity and scale is organising the opening ceremony at the Olympics. That only has to be done once. Natasha does this again and again and again. So, I mean, just awesome. Awesome. She is an incredible young woman. And as Natasha says, while every journey has its ups and downs, I would say it was absolutely worth every ounce of work and always will be. They say tough times don't last, but tough people do. Absolutely, Natasha. Over to you.
Katie, hi. Thank you so much for that incredible introduction. I hope everyone can hear me clearly. So I'll begin right away. And from the previous couple of introductions, I love the way the Wayfinder web page says, they help women build a better life by acquiring them with the right skill set. In the same way, I believe each one of us here today, because we chose to believe in ourselves when we were told otherwise. So kudos to that. And what a brilliant start to this afternoon. For me, I think empowerment is something that comes when you have a right to say no, when you're obligated to say a yes. It's also the freedom to choose what you want to do against a preconceived notion of what you're supposed to do. It also majorly comes into play when there's an equal opportunity for everyone. I think it's also having a fair shot at whatever life has to offer. So good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone from every part of the world. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you all can take something back, just the way I took something back by listening to two fantastic women before me. So a little about my childhood. I spent a couple of years traveling the length and breadth of India because my father was in the Indian Air Force. So I made new friends. I changed schools like the seasons changed. So it was very frequent. And since I had no sibling, I was born, brought up, and made to think very independently. So thank you for that, Mom and Dad. So I began my journey professionally after changing 8 different schools, 1 college, and a brilliant 6-month internship. After a lot of hard work, I landed a very coveted position where you are speeded up and you're made a manager in a span of 1 year. So the average span to get to that position is somewhere around 3 to 4 years. So the pressure, the work, the hours were tremendous, but I wouldn't have traded that for anything. So my 1 year was basically comprised of working in a very glittery and a glamorous hotel. I was awed and charmed by the lavish buffets, the clinking of glasses, the occasional spotting of a celebrity. And that's also where I met Roger and Katie a couple of years back. So my day-to-day task was basically working around the clock with an on-floor team where I had to learn the operations. I also had to do back operations where there's a lot of hard work involved. And in whatever free time I had to basically shadow my superiors, and I had to see all the leadership skills that were going into play. So there was a lot happening in that 1 year. But at the cost of not bragging, I completed my 1 year, I excelled, and I became a manager. So I think that's where my challenge started truly. Usually it's the other way around, like your training is tough, and then you become a manager and you enjoy the fruits of labor. But for me, things switched very differently. I became a manager at the age of 21. So the people who I was working with, suddenly the dynamic changed and they started reporting to me. I clearly remember my first job or my first task was to head a department of 30 people. And this department worked round the clock. So I had to basically do a lot of back-end work. And the team was very dynamic. There were a lot of cultural differences. Everybody got something to the table. So people were as young as me at the age of 20, 21, or as old as my father at the age of 50 or 55. Dad, I'm really sorry for disclosing your age here. But yeah, so I think the challenge was really, when the dynamic changed, I could sense, body language is something that can always divulge something that you're not able to say. So I could always face a resistance in the team. When people were hesitant to come and ask me if they could leave early from work, or if they could go and they could take a paid leave, there was always a lot of resistance and slight irritation. And really, being a 21-year-old, you know, how much ever confident you are, you, at the back of your mind, you are scared. You are nervous as well. So I remember every day I would go to work and I didn't know from which angle something was going to be boomeranged at me. So for me, when I raised that to my superior, you know, he very calmly sat me down and he said that, Natasha, you're here for a reason. So buckle up, put in the hard work, and knowledge is power. He said, the more you know, the more you grasp, the more people will respect you. He said, get down into the smallest of details, question why. So I remember as a manager, you're supposed to take a lot of briefings. And these briefings demand a lot of attention, care, small details. So every day after work, I would sit back, I would plan my briefing, the notes, budgets, figures, tasks, follow-ups. I think every single day I put in a lot of effort. And, you know, to be very honest, the challenge didn't stop. People's resistance didn't decline, but it lessened. So bit by bit, day by day, I think that's why they say knowledge is power. That when you know your information, when you know a lot that's going on around you, I think you're able to somewhat change the dynamic in the team. So that's how things went. Also, being the only female manager, I had a wonderful team of colleagues who were much senior to me. Each of them used to push me forward, and there was always a little bit of, you know, you had to fit in with them. Because with guys, it's like they're having fun and, you know, there's these jokes and sometimes you don't get the jokes. But I think it's okay. I think at times you just have to buckle up. You just have to put your head to it and you have to work through it. So I made sure that after 3 years when I left this organization, I left as a very confident 24-year-old manager with a head held high. So that's how I exited my first hotel. And I decided it was time to start something new, take up a new challenge. And that's when I decided to do a shift from operations into sales. So on one hand, I was probably making someone's vision come true. On the other hand, I had to sell this vision to somebody at a very premium rate. So my second organization was equally beautiful. It was in the heart of Mumbai, a city that never sleeps. We had these huge banquet halls that were running around the clock. There was a movie conference, there was a product launch, there was a film festival. You know, something or the other was always going on. So people automatically expected that when you have the knowledge of a background of operations, you're translating that into a sale. So, you know, the time to merge into something was really low. I just had to pick up the buck and start working again. But I remember among all of this, you know, there was always a time that as women, when you stay alone or you're not staying with your family, or if you're not married for that matter, you know, there's always an expectation that, yeah, she can put in a couple of extra hours. That's okay. She has no one to go home to. So I think at times I made my peace with that. I was more than happy. I said, yeah, why not? You know, let's just put in those couple of extra hours. Let's learn. But I think it's very important to draw the line. As previously you mentioned, there has to be a balance. You breathe in, you breathe out. I think even if you have no one to go home to, or even if you're coming back home and you want to work out or read a book, I think, you know, things like this should never be questioned. Your body language should never be, you know, like, why do you want to go home early? So I think for me, it was always the things that were unsaid were more of a challenge. A lot of preconceived notions. And I greatly believe that, you know, when you eliminate preconceived notions, when there's an equal chance for everybody, for both the genders, that's when you truly grow. That's when you actually realize that, yes, there's more to everything rather than just saying that she's supposed to do that and he's supposed to do this. So that's how I started believing in myself. And that's how I try to break the barrier every single day, and one barrier at a time. So, and also, I like these days, I see women choosing it all. You know, I see women in my field being a general manager, being a sales leader, being analysts, being network engineers. And it's beautiful because it gives you the belief that someday and some point of time, you will see women slowly changing the dynamic for everything across the world. It gives me the belief and the faith that someday, probably a couple of years down the line, that if I have a daughter someday, she should say that, Mom, I want to be just like you or better than you. So those are the kind of goals I do want to have. And, coming back to moms or mothers, there's always a dynamic. There's always something that you have Grammy Award winners, you have Oscar Award winners or athletes always thanking their mothers. Thank you so much, Mom, for this. Thank you so much, Mom, for helping me out here. So I hope my folks are still online here, and I'd like to just take a very brief and a quick minute to thank both of them. Thank you so much, Mom and Dad, for raising me to be where I am right here. This would not have been possible without the both of you. And as I know, there are many other speakers also waiting to just give their share of experience, and I'm waiting to hear them. I just want to leave you all with one small thing. I'll try my best to translate it for you, and I really hope you do understand it. So in India, you call a son a beta. You call a daughter a beti. I'll repeat it again. In India, you call a son a beta, and you call a daughter a beti. So people say that you can always call your daughter a beta, but you can never call your son a beti. So I hope, you all tried to, it was a pleasure speaking on this platform. And I know that now since all of us have connected, there's definitely going to be some more sharing happening as well. But thank you so much for giving me this platform to speak on and be a part of it. Happy Women's Day to all of you. I think there should not be just one day where we get to celebrate this. I think it should be every single day where you believe in yourself. And like I said, when you go forward, you should make it a point to take someone else forward along with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. That was absolutely wonderful, and what a lovely tribute to your parents. And I can remember when Roger and I first met you in Mumbai, I looked at you and I thought, if I had a daughter, that's who I would want her to be. And I wanted to adopt you immediately and pretend you were mine and take all of the
You still can.
I couldn't do that, sadly, because your real mother has all the credit. But you are a remarkable young woman, and it's been an absolute joy to know you and also to follow your career. I love some of the things you said. Acknowledge your spark. I mean, that is absolutely fantastic. And what I think I'm really going to take away from that is to smash preconceived notions.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I love Eleanor Roosevelt, and she has some wonderful quotes. And a couple of my favorite is, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And I think that is incredibly powerful. So, people can throw whatever they like at us, but it is our choice whether or not we accept it and whether or not we believe what is being projected onto us. And we have that choice not to believe what is being projected onto us and actually to smash those preconceived ideas of who women are meant to be in the world. And the more we smash those preconceived ideas, the more we refuse to accept negative stereotypes that are projected onto us, the more and more quickly we will move forward. And another great quote from Eleanor Roosevelt, which I think sums up every great woman, is, well-behaved women rarely make history. So I go out to all the women I work with and I urge them and encourage them to misbehave as much as they possibly can so that they do make history. So thank you very, very much. I'm not encouraging you to misbehave in case your parents are still listening. But thank you very much, Natasha. It's an absolute joy to have you with us, and we will welcome you back for the Q&A very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So we are now going to the Caribbean, to the Virgin Islands. We are whizzing all over the world. Isn't technology wonderful? So it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our final speaker of the first half, Dr. Anita Davis Defoe. Anita is the CEO of Upshift Global, which is a company that serves individuals, businesses, and non-profit organizations globally. She has over 20 years' experience of transforming individuals and organizations. Anita holds a PhD in management with a focus in organization and human development. She serves as the president of the Global Leadership Transformation Alliance and is the president of the India-US Virgin Islands Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Anita received the African Leadership Award in 2014 and the 2015 Social Entrepreneurship Leadership Award for designing global social enterprises aimed at providing opportunities for individuals to create pathways out of poverty. Good morning and welcome, Anita.
Good morning. Good morning. She was the daughter of a school principal who worked for one school district for 43 years. She was the daughter of a mother who taught elementary school for 38 years. She found herself constantly confronted with two paths to choose from: a path of purpose or a path or of a plan. And that was the constant challenge that she found herself facing until she decided to embrace her divine self. Good morning, good afternoon, peace and blessings to you wherever you are in the globe on this wonderful International Women's Day. It's indeed my honor and privilege to come to you and join in this fantastic celebration that is being hosted by the Wayfinders Foundation, coming to you from the lovely island of the U.S. Virgin Islands. The she that I introduced you to was me. And what better theme for this year's International Women's Day is this Choose to Challenge. As I was listening to the fellow speakers talk about their journeys, that pathway to decide whether you're going to live a life of purpose or if you're going to live the plan, it challenges us all the time. And for me, growing up the daughter of educators who had worked, both of them, for one school district all of their lives, I was always confronted with, do I live the plan? And the plan in any of our cases can be the plan that you have for yourself or the plan that someone else has for your life, or do you answer the call to purpose? I had spent many years working at universities, at providing assistance to nonprofits through a variety of services, but I always did that out of the comfort of a job. And so I would do and what I call play at being an entrepreneur, a playing at being at purpose, but still maintaining a daily job. During my daily job, I wrote several books. I would take vacation time and I would go and speak, and I would speak at conferences or do book signings, but I always straddled the fence, trying to adhere into my mind what I perceived to be the plan. But in 2005, my mother, after a lengthy battle with cancer, she passed away. And then a year later, in 2007, in the same week that my mother had passed away, my father passed away. And as I was reflecting on their lives, and they both had not only been longtime educators, they had always done a lot in the faith community and also in our community at large. And I said to myself, Anita, are you more afraid of never finding a job again? Or are you more afraid of not living a purposeful life and not feeling that you have fulfilled the divine assignment that each of us are given when we're given the gift of life? And after giving it much thought and pondering it, and people were telling me, "Oh, Anita, you're crazy. You're a vice president at this entity in Florida. You're doing exceedingly well. What are you talking about purpose? What are you talking about? You have this divine calling that you have more to do with your life." And I listened to that for a while, probably about 3 or 4 years, when on one given day, some of the things that occurred that day just helped me to realize that living a life of purpose was far more important to me than living whatever I thought was the perceived plan. So on December 17th, 2007, I left the comforts of my job and I went on this journey that has led me to meet some of the most incredible people from around the world, to work on some of the most exciting projects. And no, the journey has not been a magic carpet ride. But what I have gained from living a purposeful life is far greater than anything could have ever been if I had stayed on the plan. Because if I stayed on the plan, I probably would still be at my desk, which the job became easier and easier. And with the staff that I had, it probably took maybe a couple hours of my day. And then the rest of it was going through the motion. So I made a very, very difficult, but very rewarding decision that I needed purpose in my life, that the plan, that it'd have to be a different plan. And I would infuse that into this purposeful life. And so when I was reflecting on the theme for IWD this year and thinking about how we have all been challenged globally, we've been challenged economically, we have been challenged with health and wellness, we have been challenged probably filled with a lot of doubts. But I'm here to share that when you choose purpose over what you perceive to be the plan, that your life will be so much more rewarding in ways that you could never have conceived. And so it's an honor and a privilege to be here with you all today as we celebrate this. If I would share anything, I would share what I call my 7 keys to soulful living. And they go very simply like this. First one is introspection. Learn who you are. We so often feel that someone has a better idea about who we should be, how we should show up in the world. And if you don't know who you are, you often give flight to what they say, and you believe that. And that strays us away from purpose and from our divine assignment, because everybody has a divine calling on your life. Many times we try to push it on the back burner. We try to avoid it. But in those wee hours when you are sitting there, purpose comes back to you, your dreams and your aspirations. And I often say, if you're not living your dream, and I ask people, are you sitting on it? And if you're sitting on it, you know what you're doing. You're not really activating it. So the first one is introspection. The second one is vision. Have a vision for your life. How do you see yourself showing up in the world? How do you see yourself living purpose? How do you see using your divine gifts and talents so that you can not only impact your life, but the life of people around the world? So you go from introspection, go from vision, and of course you need purpose. Purpose leads and it's tied to passion. Passion will make you be persistent. And I have never seen an instance where a woman doesn't have purpose, passion, and persistence that she does not prevail. So you must always know that. So you have introspection, you have vision, you have purpose, and then you think about habits. I don't know about you all, but I have at least two habits that I know I challenge myself with on a daily basis. Be careful what we make our habits and what we embrace, because it's much easier to make something a habit than to unleash it and when we want to stop it. So think about your habits. And then the next one is relationships. Relationships often derail women. We sometimes don't recognize healthy relationships because we've seen unhealthy relationships so much that we think that is how it should be. First, develop a healthy relationship with yourself. Love yourself and embrace yourself. Too often, as women, we say, I'm going to love myself when I lose this 10 pounds, or when I get this job, or when I get married, or whatever. Stop living the then life. We are in the now, and we should not waste any opportunities. The last one is faith. However faith shows up in your life, follow that invisible trail home. That's what faith is. It's the believing. And there's so many instances where faith has shown up in my life when I believed, when I doubted that I was on a purposeful journey, that faith showed me that you're on the right track, and it's through your growing through the difficult times, because it's easy when you're standing there and you have the photo op that you feel great, but we learn in the valley, in the difficult. That's where we get most of our skill building. That's where we really aspire. And then the last thing is resiliency. I say circumstances and situations, they don't define us, they reveal us. And through each of our journeys, when we are faced with struggles, it's through the resiliency. And you can't live a life as a woman always looking in what I call the rearview mirror. If you're looking back, you can't see the present, and you really can't prepare for the future. So we have to always work about resiliency. Forget about failure. Fail many times. My mentor, John Maxwell, tells us all the time, failure doesn't exist. In our mind, as humans, we have decided to claim things and define things as failure. When we have a setback, all it's telling us is we need to change the process. It's telling us, look at the steps that we followed. What do I need to do differently? And when you do those things, you will always meet the challenge. You will be able to soar, and you will live a purposeful life. Remember, if the plan doesn't align with your purpose, that's truly not your plan. Peace and blessings, and thank you so much for letting me share this global IWD Day with the foundation and with all of these tremendous women who had such exciting spirits and told such magnificent stories about their journeys overcoming challenge. Thank you.
Oh,
Anita,
thank you so much. Amen to that.
Truly wonderful and truly inspiring. Thank you so much. And what a wonderful way to end our first group of 4 international speakers. What I notice is a common theme coming through all of the talks we've heard so far, including Laura and Baroness Udine, is talking about values and passion. That they have to be the core running through us throughout our whole life, is knowing what our values are, living in alignment with our values, and following our passion. And if we all do that, regardless of gender, regardless of culture, we're probably not going to go too far wrong in life. And I love, Anita, what you were saying, resiliency. So challenges don't define us, they reveal us. I think that is absolutely wonderful, and so true. And those relationships, when you were talking about the relationship with yourself, what came up to me was a great song by George Benson, "The greatest love of all is the love you have for yourself." And it has to start with, because people will respond to us dependent on the messages that we radiate out to them. So all they're doing is confirming to us the views that we hold of ourselves. So having that relationship with ourselves, loving ourselves and knowing who we are and knowing our value and our right to take up space on this planet and own it, own our power, own our potency, if we take control of that, we will radiate out and attract a different set of responses from other people. So that relationship with ourselves is absolutely core and pivotal. So thank you very much for that. We're going to open up now to the four speakers, and Paula, do feel free to chip in as well. In fact, I'd like to start with you, Paula, if I may. In your talk, you mentioned, I've made a note here, about the changes that you introduced into the very traditional House of Lords and your national mentoring work. I wonder if you're able to just very quickly tell us a little bit more about that.
So first of all, I want to say I am in absolute awe of all of the contributors. I'm sorry I didn't say a little bit more about my kind of personal lives. And I just want to say that I was going like that in agreement with so much of all of your experiences. And I thank you for sharing them. I think in Parliament, we are so used not to talk about what drives our passion. And I just want to put on record that it is my son, 42-year-old son, who's autistic, for whom I had to fight with every sinew of my breath to get him, his education and his speech therapies and all that. That really drove me out of my home. But I was always passionate because my role model in life has been very strong women, and my grandfather, who educated all his children, all his grandchildren. And so really that's what has driven me all of my every sinew of moments. Having said that, it's very difficult to claim anything big. I mean, I'm not that person. So it's very difficult to say, I have changed this, I've changed that in Parliament. But I was the very first person to take a baby in my arm, 6-7 months old, into the House of Lords. And I can tell you, I was absolutely vilified in the press. They said, what on earth is this woman got to contribute to anything in legislative format or legislative platforms. And much later, of course, women who came along that were not culturally obvious, they were chosen like heroes. It was pointed out how brave they were. So yeah, I mean, I think that because I was a young woman with children and responsibilities, and I mean, Rana so touched my nerves when she talked about how she didn't manage to spend times with her children, her daughter. I can tell you, I have lived and breathed those sense of pain, I think, for 30 years in public life. And then things went drastically wrong in 2009. And I believe to this day that it was a cornerstone, a turning point for my life to turn around and see what I've been missing. So I'm so glad you caught it after 2 years. I didn't. I was so blinded by this, the work and the sense of responsibilities. So I tell you one thing I will say, that I was the very first person to challenge the House of Lords about technology. So I said, I must have my telephone with me because I need to contact my children. And I don't know whether you know, of course you know, you remember how big the phones were and you couldn't mute them. So I got into trouble on frequent basis. And then of course I went to the House authorities and said, look, I'm a professional woman. I work and I have to be here for 18 hours. I need a computer. And they said, House of Lords members don't have computers. You have to be a members of the Commons. But it took years of grind to change those attitudes. But I have to say, House of Lords is an incredible place for champion disability rights. And people like myself are trying our best to make sure women are on the agenda. Although 20% is not good enough, and 30% in the Commons is not good enough. So we have a huge way to go. And so thank you for allowing me to make these points. I think mentoring and working with each other is so very important. So I hope and pray that we will keep in touch, because you really have put the fire in my belly today again, one more time. Thank you.
Thank you, Fola. It's always a joy to be around you. Your energy and enthusiasm for everything you do in life is so incredibly infectious. And you and I were born in the same year. I can remember when I started work, my first interview in the 1970s for a job, I was asked when I was planning to get married and have children. I mean, thank goodness now that would be illegal to ask a woman that question. But, when we think back of how far we have come, I'm the first woman in my family to own her own property in her own right. And that seems remarkable, because I take it for granted that I do what I want. I run my own business. I own my own home. Yes. I travel around the world working. I do and it doesn't occur to me that I can't do it. And I have to stop and remember, this wasn't available to my mother. She brought me up on her own in the 1960s. And when I think of the challenges that she had to go through, we spent a time when we were homeless because nobody would give her a home because they didn't trust a woman on her own with a child. And when I think of the challenges, and in one generation, how far we have come as women. So, just think what we can help create for those amazing generations of women that are coming up behind us.
We share all those common bond of experience of being raised by a single mother. My mother decided, because my father was not a kind person to her, that she would divorce him in 1973, with the support of his father, my mother's father-in-law. And so, we share so much, Katie. I love you.
I love you too. Dinner soon in June the 22nd. It's a date. Get it in your diary. So I'm now going to ask the speakers the same question. If you, this year, the theme of International Women's Day is choose to challenge. If you were to choose to challenge something about your country and women, what would that be, and how would you go about it? So I'm going to go to Turkey first. So Rana. Nothing like throwing you in the deep end.
Okay. Wow, that's difficult. I want to challenge so many things. But for my country, I'm passionate about women's participation in business life. And for the time being, that percentage is 32% in Turkey. And we have the 128th, within 142 countries. So that is, I'm sorry for the word I'm going to say, but it's pathetic. So that's what I want to change. And that's what I'm fighting for. And for myself, I'm 52 years old, and the people around me are trying to convince me to settle down, and that is no, never. Never.
Absolutely.
So that's one of my biggest challenge, because in Turkey, when you are 50, you should stay at home together with the kids and, do nothing.
Yada, stay at home with the kids. Yeah, we've heard it all before. Heard it all. Got the my wardrobe's full of t-shirts. Right, now what can I tell you? I mean, really, enough already with the staying at home. Thank you. So let's go to Egypt. Rania, how about you?
In 2019, Egypt became first country in Middle East and Africa to launch the Closing the Gender Gap Accelerator, which means we are on the right track in terms of the efforts of women empowerment. However, if I am to challenge my country, I will challenge them on two fronts, and both have to do with the diversity and inclusion. So the first one is to work more on increasing the awareness of both genders, for male and female, on diversity and inclusion and its benefits on the companies and the countries, and diversity of thoughts, both. Also, I would really work or talk to them about educating companies on assessing correctly the people who will be on board and on leadership seats, especially women, because those can be role models. And after being a role model, they will be an inspiration for a lot of people, and we will really gain a lot of benefit because of the quality, not the quantity of women there.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. It's the quality, not the quantity. I mean, my background is in diversity and inclusion, where I worked with FTSE 250 companies on their gender diversity. And I always stress to them, recruit, develop, and retain the best person for the job.
Absolutely.
If the best person for the job is a white, heterosexual man, fully abled, married with 2.4 children, then for goodness sake, employ him and develop him. But
Absolutely.
Just be aware the best person for the job may not look like that. The best person for the job could look slightly different to that. But it always has to be on the quality, because otherwise any change is likely to backfire. And it is very much, we've heard from Anita about relationships. So it is about collaboration, working in partnership and collaboration. And actually for us as women to celebrate men, because they are pretty awesome creatures. They do bring an awful lot to the table. So, let's celebrate them, but let's not try to be them.
Yeah.
Because if we try to be women in business who behave like men, we're telling the world being a woman in business isn't good enough. And being a woman in business is good enough. But that's being a woman in business, not a pretend man in business. So celebrate men for what they bring to the table, and celebrate ourselves for what we bring to the table as well. So it is about that collaboration and working in partnerships, which is really important. Natasha, where are you? My lovely girl, what would you do to challenge India? Interesting. I want to ask you a very specific question, actually, sure. Natasha, if I may, because India is still quite a traditional society. Absolutely. So what changes did you bring to the places that you have worked?
Okay, so basically in India, as you said, the approach is still very traditional. It's still very cultural. I remember when I worked previously with my first organization, my department or team was majorly you had a lot of males who were working. There were a lot of men who were working. And, the general demarcation was such that housekeeping was for girls, the restaurants were for boys, the sales were for guys. I mean, when I became a manager, I made it a point that from the most junior level till at least a level below me, there has to be a woman. As when you have a woman on the team, you do get a certain approach to the team. It's a very, I still can't, I don't know how to bring it out on the table. But as a female, when I was working in my first organization or my second one, and when I had the authority to get someone on my team, I always made sure it was a woman, after hiring or after, interviewing people. And it didn't stop there. I'll tell you the reason why. When I made sure I brought someone on my team, especially a woman, I remember I hired a member and she had 3 kids at home. And people were always in the belief, don't hire her. She'll take a medical leave. It's a parent-teacher meeting one day. I said, no, I will get her on my team. And I will prove to you that she'll come every single day unless she's sick. So I remember when I got her on my team, I told her, I said, it doesn't stop at hiring. I said, couple of months down the line, I need an executive plan from you. That where do you see yourself in 1 year? I said, I will keep on evaluating you on that. And I think that's what gets me to my answer to your question, or the basic theme of today's talk is that a country can only develop when the micro and macro factors, public and private sectors develop. How are you going to develop that? I think every company, whether it's private, government, any sector for that matter, needs to have at least a 50-50 ratio between men and women. And it should never stop at hiring. You need to have a plan for everybody. It's very rightly said that if I move forward, I can only move forward when the people behind me are willing to take my place. And that's when I can go forward. I can't go forward unless you move. And this is what I've seen in a lot of places. They hire and it's done. The line is drawn. You need to push women. Okay, where do you see yourself in 1 year? And that's how my manager developed me. He said, draw out a plan. I'll see you in 3 months. Whatever you want to approve, list it down. I'll see you in 3 months. And, just the thought of seeing him in 3 months where he's going to question me, like literally pushed me on my toes. And I used to be, I just made up my mind. I said, come what may, I'll put my best version out there. So that's what I want to do for people who I'm hiring, especially women. I always tell them, I said, it doesn't stop here. You just cannot, punch in, punch out and go home. You need to have a vision where you want to be in 6 months or in 1 year or 2 years. And whatever it is, communication, presentation, having a job in a resort hotel, or going back to work for a luxury hotel, you should have that. And that's very important. I think when that happens, only when you start progressing, you'll see a change in your surrounding. And secondly, your approach. The approach cannot be sympathetic. It should never be sympathy. It should always be empathy. It should be lined out with positivity. It shouldn't be, you must be having so much of work because you're coming from home and you've got a child at home and it must be so much of work. It should be laced with empathy. Like, oh, that's fabulous. You're working at home, you're coming here, you're putting in those hours. My mother, my aunt, who were part of this call, both were working. My aunt is still working. So I see them on their toes. They're working, they're around the clock, they're multitasking. And I think once you push a woman in the right direction, there's no stopping her.
Absolutely, Natasha. Thank you so much. It's brilliant. I mean, what an amazing morning so far. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to draw the first half of this event to a close now because we have overrun slightly. We have 4 other amazing speakers joining us very soon from London, from the UK, from Kenya, from the Lebanon, and from the Palm Beach in the USA. So please, everybody, please, even though the speakers can't see you, please, everybody get on their feet and give all our amazing speakers so far an amazing round. Women around the world are giving you a standing ovation, even though you can't see them. So thank you very, very much. It's absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for our fabulous speakers so far this morning. Absolutely brilliant. I make it 11:32 UK time. We're going to take a quick few-minute break so we can bring the other speakers on board and make them host. The current speakers, you're very welcome to stay for the whole event, but we absolutely realise there are huge demands in your time. So if you do need to leave, we won't be remotely offended. We are recording this and your talks will be sent to you for you to use as you please. So thank you everybody so far. We'll take a very short break and then we will come back for our second part.
Salute. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Paula.
Bye.